all of the mental warfare with myself on whether or not I should eat Oreos. All the wildebeest going up and down, and we would literally see them go up and down, up and down, up and down. And so Bob and I are having this conversation, and there was one word, this was going up. This is actually when they got to the other side, and you can see, and they're still going. The zebras kind of intermingle in there. They're like, you can go first. Because we see, and it's crazy because as they're going through, you'll see a crocodile come out and grab a freaking wildebeest. And the wildebeest are jumping through the water to try to pounce on the head because they know what's coming. They've been doing this for, thousands of years. But Bob and I are having this conversation, and we're just like, why don't they just move? Because we could see when there was no crocodile. And we're literally yelling at them move, move, move. And there's this little voice inside of you guys that I promise you, and that's why it was so crazy. And again, I didn't hear the 5 pillars, but when his last word was move, that was actually the first song that I have on the upcoming Purple Explosion 2 album. And it's called Move, and it's based on a podcast that Bob Snyder and I did. If you go back and you listen to that, it's literally called Move. And we realized that everybody you're either someone who's moving or you're a wildebeest. And my mom, after that podcast, she texted me, and she said, after I listened to your podcast, I realized I'd been wildebeested. And I was like, what an interesting way to look at life. I've been wildebeested. And there's so much of the trash that's happening that keeps you in the wildebeest mode, where you're literally just waiting for something to come over and just eat you, like your life's food. I heard a really interesting saying the other day is, my life changed when I finally decided that I was going to live until I died. And I thought that was so interesting because so many people are basically just waiting until they die. They're not actually living life. They're alive, but they're not living. Because they never made the decision to move on an $8 challenge, to move on a friendship, to move on a decision that you've needed to make. Much of what happens is you just ask, you talking yourself into taking action. How weird is that? Imagine if you didn't have to talk yourself into taking actions you need to take. I remember when I was losing my weight and I was going through all of the mental warfare with myself on whether or not I should eat Oreos. I know I should, if I'm trying to do it, I know I shouldn't eat Oreos. It's very self-explanatory. But I'm not kidding. I would especially if God forbid someone put Oreos in the freezer and I knew they were there, if I'm laying in bed, I'm thinking about the Oreos. I'm but what if I just got up and ate one? And then I'd just become captain one more. But I made it my job to not eat Oreos. It was just, that's not who I was anymore. And so I had to move. Sometimes the move that you need to make is you stopping something. And this is a really powerful thing that changed my entire life when I finally did this, is a lot of people have I just want to get these things, I want to accomplish these things every single day. These are my 3 things. I'm going to call these people, or I'm going to read this, or I'm going to work out for 30 minutes, whatever it is. But I want you guys to create a stop doing list. When's the last time you actually identified even just one thing? I am no longer doing this. I loved it so much. I was coaching Drew. We're having this conversation, and I said, "Hey, this podcast episode would be really good for you." And he said, I stopped everything but this, and this. And we had to have a real conversation on whether or not he was going to break this rule that he had to go and read this. Did listening to this podcast fit into the new version of him? Because he said, okay, this is what I'm doing. I have stopped all of this. And it was a really, really cool revelation to realize that he's taking action. So sometimes the movement that you need to make is the admittance of the action that you will no longer take, or the action you will no longer tolerate, or the decision, or the drink. I'll tell you, when I started getting healthy, like he and I were talking about it because he and I like were really going down our health thing, and we realized on our last coaching call, we were like, honestly, I think you might be like one of like 4 people on planet Earth I might have a drink with, and it's going to need to be a proper drink. But even then, it's like it's probably going to take us 2 hours to get through the drink because it's just not who we are anymore. It's not like how much of the bottle or how many bottles can we get through. That's just not who we are anymore. Because the actions that we take of the 4 billion steps that apparently you just came out of nowhere destroying our whole group. Like, what in the world? But the thing that happens is that he fundamentally became a different person because he moved in a new direction, and then certain relationships, certain things, certain actions no longer served him. It's the final percent. The final percent.